Hello, I'm Kay Lemon, Executive Director at the Marketing Science Institute. As many of you know, nonprofit MSI serves as a bridge between marketing theory and business practice, and our goal is to move the needle on significant marketing problems. We do this by funding research by leading academics worldwide on topics voted on by our 70-plus corporate sponsors and disseminating that research through members-only events and a variety of publications. I'm very pleased to welcome you to another MSI For Members by Members webinar. This is a series of webinars on subjects related to MSI's current research priority topics. First, I'd like to point out the Chat with Presenter function in the left-hand corner of your screen. Please use this feature to send through any questions you have for Debbie during the presentation. We'll gather the questions and have a brief Q&A session following the presentation. Now I'd like to introduce you to today's featured speaker. Debbie McGinnis is the Charles L. and Ramona I. Hilliard Professor of Business Administration and Professor of Marketing at the University of Southern California Marshall School of Business. Her work focuses on the role of emotions in consumer behavior and branding. She's received many of the top honors and awards in our field. Most recently, as in just this past week, Debbie was just named as a fellow of the Association for Consumer Research, one of the highest honors in our field. She has also received, she was also the co-editor of the Journal of Consumer Research, among many other things. Her consulting work includes work with major consumer packaged goods companies, B2B marketers, and advertising agencies. Please welcome Debbie as she speaks about what makes customers adore your brand.
Thank you, Kay, and good morning or good afternoon to everyone, depending upon what time of day it is for you. I'm very happy to be talking with you, and this morning I'm going to provide a relatively high-level review of some of the concepts my colleagues and I have been researching throughout our careers, and some ideas that are embodied in a new book that we have just published by Wiley called Brand Admiration. We're pretty proud of this book because it represents a new perspective on branding, but there's a lot of research on human behavior and emotions and branding that undergirds it. So we think it has a lot of substance to it. I should mention that although our book is based on academic research, we use a lot of examples to show that the concepts are relevant to a broad set of marketing entities. So it's not just consumer packaged goods companies. These concepts apply to services, places, entertainment brands, B2B brands, B2C brands, etc. And as a consumer behavior person, I'll often slip into my consumer behavior lingo by calling brand buyers consumers. But you should know that when I use this term, I also mean B2B buyers as well. So my colleagues and I have spent some time thinking about what makes for a great brand. And in doing so, we've really thought about how does a brand really provide value to a company, and what are the different ways in which a brand can provide value to a company. And this was really the start of our book. And our thinking was that there's many, many ways in which a brand offers value to companies. Of course, a good brand earns revenue, but beyond that, there are a whole set of ways in which the brand provides value. For example, a good brand has strong demand, so it costs less to produce and market given economies of scale. When you have a good brand, you're able to grow your market effectively and efficiently using brand extensions. We know from experience that great brands help from an organizational perspective because people want to work for great brands. So great brands have a broader talent pool and enthusiastic employees who are brand champions. We've also seen, unfortunately, case after case of brand gaffes and disasters, all in the news almost every day. And our research shows that consumers are more willing to give great brands a second chance. Great brands, because of their scale, also make it more difficult for competitive brands to enter the market. And they make it more likely that other companies will want to partner with the brand. Finally, great brands command a high price from the standpoint of mergers and acquisitions, given the strong equity that they've built. So our book proposes that companies can earn these benefits when they develop or when they are able to create an admired brand. So let's talk for a minute about what we mean by an admired brand. This is a concept that my colleagues and I have been studying for quite some time. We have a lot of empirical research related to it. We've previously called it brand attachment, but our more recent work lets us believe that the word admiration better describes these brands. And I think you'll see why in a few minutes. But for now, let me describe what we mean by brand admiration. Some brands, and these are all consumer examples, but I'll get to some B2B examples later, like Apple and Harry Potter and Nike, Harley Davidson, Star Trek, various sports brands, have been really successful in creating the state of brand enthusiasm. What we've done in our research is to emphasize what characterizes this state and why is it so important to companies, and how can companies try to enhance the extent to which their brand is admired. What we've learned is that consumers who strongly admire a brand think about the brand as almost part of who they are. It's embedded in their lives, and it's wrapped up not only in their identities, but it speaks to them on an emotional level. It resonates with things that are important to them, whether it's their values, their goals, their specific needs that happen to be salient at a given time. What's more, these brands are top of mind, which is good. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, we want our brand to be the top brand that people think about. It's not at all hard for consumers to remember these brands because they're tied up in their own autobiographical experiences with the brand, at work, at home, whatever the case may be. So brand admiration, sorry, I'm just trying to switch to the next slide. We've developed a measure of brand admiration, and in our past research, we've shown that the more consumers admire a brand, the more likely they are to be loyal to it and to advocate on the brand's behalf. We've also shown that the effect of brand admiration on these brand loyalty and brand advocacy behaviors can be explained, goes beyond that, explained by other measures like brand attitude strength or brand love. In terms of loyalty, we've observed that the more consumers admire a brand, the more willing they are to want to buy it repeatedly and pay a price premium over time. They're more willing to forgive the brand for mishaps and unwilling to substitute the brand for others, even if new and better ones come on the market. Of course, all of these positive outcomes have revenue implications and help hence build the brand's equity. And if consumers are willing to forgive the brand for marketplace mishaps, the brand can serve as a second chance provider. So we see that the brand loyalty behaviors we've observed from brand admiration are the very things that make a brand valuable to a company. Consumers are also open to brand extensions of the brands they admire, to alliances with other brands, which means that the growth and alliance prospects of a brand are increased as brand admiration increases. Growth, of course, serves as a market protector, particularly if the brand has come to represent the product category. In terms of advocacy, as brand admiration increases, consumers are also more likely to risk their own time and reputation in the service of the brand. So they'll recommend it to others. They might even trash talk competitors' brands, join a brand community, and the like, all of which make marketing costs more efficient. In essence, they become unpaid salespeople for the brand. Admired brands are more likely to be successful at hiring enthusiastic and talented employees who are willing to accept a lower pay and are more loyal employees. So the bottom line is that admired brands induce the very behaviors that make the brand valuable to the company. So what drives brand admiration? What we've discovered is that there are three key drivers to brand admiration. When consumers admire a brand, they have a strong degree of brand trust. They believe they can count on the brand to be there for them and to act in their best interest. They also love the brand. They have a strong level of affective or affection towards this brand. And they respect it for what it does. the impact that it has on people's lives, including their own. Some research has focused on brand love, and we agree that brand love is important. But what we've learned from our research is that admired brands do more than induce a state of brand love. They create relationships with consumers that are based on three types of what we're calling emotive beliefs. They trust the brand, they love it, and they respect it. What's interesting about these states is that they're foundational to long-term relationships. If you think about your own relationships with other people, for example, you can imagine that the strongest and most enduring relationships that you have are with people that you trust, those that you love, and those that you respect. So you can imagine a sense where you trust someone, but you don't love them and don't respect them. That relationship is not likely to last compared to one that has all three of these states. The most important piece of our framework, I think, is that we've tried to understand the fundamental factors that drive brand trust, love, and respect from a marketing standpoint, and therefore the things that induce brand admiration. In short, brands provide value to companies when they provide value to customers. And they provide values to customers by addressing critical end states and inducing powerful emotions. From a functional perspective, people want a brand that solves their problems using the fewest resources possible. And they want to enjoy it from an experiential perspective. And they want to feel good about themselves, either in their own eyes or the eyes of others, while using it. So from an emotional perspective, brands that customers admire are the ones that make customers feel empowered, gratified, and inspired or proud. What we find really interesting about this tripartite framework on brand benefits is that if you look at the research that's been done on human values, needs, goals, and motivations, you can see that all of those goals, motivations, needs, etc., can be subsumed within these three categories of benefits. So, for example, there are typologies that talk about consumers' needs for autonomy, control, self-efficacy, competence, etc. Those are all benefits that we're calling enabling benefits. They're benefits that have provide functional pleasure because they solve customers' problems using the fewest resources possible. When we talk about enticing benefits, those are the benefits that deal with more of these internal needs, needs for stimulation, needs for entertainment, needs for fun, needs for gratification, needs for cognition, etc. And the enriching benefits are those that deal with our sense of self-esteem or our sense of belonging in relation to other people. Enriching benefits include those that make us feel good about ourselves as people because they make us feel that we have status or that we're somehow distinctive from others in the population. What our research suggests is that when consumers can count on a reliable and versatile brand to address their problems consistently and over time, they feel they can depend on it. They trust it to be there for them when they need it. So trust enhances these feelings of security, lowered anxiety, and greater confidence in the brand as a relationship partner. We find that consumers are more willing to establish a connection between the self and the brand because they can trust the brand. They can depend on it. Conserving consumers' scarce resources also fosters brand trust. When a brand helps consumers by saving time, money, and physical or psychological energy, consumers believe that the brand is acting in their best interests, and it's helping them do more with less. The brand maker recognizes the constraints customers are under, and it's being responsive to these constraints. Whereas enabling benefits foster one of the critical drivers of brand admiration, brand trust, enticing benefits foster a second driver of brand admiration, brand love. Enticing benefits create an approach response toward the brand. They make consumers want to explore the brand and be around the benefits for the gratification that it provides. We also find that enriching benefits are important in terms of fostering brand respect. Although enabling and enriching benefits build brand admiration through their impact on brand trust and brand love, what we find, and this is really fascinating, is that it's the enriching benefits that have the greatest impact on brand admiration through their effect on brand respect. In fact, our own research shows that enriching benefits may be the most critical factor for building, strengthening, and sustaining brand admiration. We talk a little bit more about why this is so in the book, and maybe we'll have time after my presentation here to get into some of those issues. But the notion that enriching benefits are very powerful was an interesting observation. So even though enriching benefits are critically important in building brand admiration, our research shows us that the most admired brands are those that offer all three types of benefits. And we illustrate this with lots and lots of different examples in the book. So I'm going to give you a few of those examples here. We're going to go both to the B2B and the B2C world. Let's start with the B2C. We have obviously a highly admired brand like Nike that has itself not been, has certainly seen its share of brand gaffes and disasters, but has always come out of them very well. If we look at Nike and how Nike has cultivated relationships with customers, we see that all of their products offer enabling benefits. They offer a ton of different types of shoes that are designed to maximize athletic performance, regardless of what the athletic event is. And there's a lot of science behind the shoes that they make, which makes them very, very engineered and protects, obviously, the athlete from some kind of injury or discomfort. But beyond these enabling benefits, Nike brands also offer a host of enticing benefits. The brand really kind of stands for fun and comfort and a love of sports and exercise. And it's not just the shoes, the fabrics that Nike makes are designed to feel really soft and cool on the body. They are really, really comfortable products. That's kind of related to these enticing benefits. With Nike products, you can also design your own shoes in whatever colors you find the most appealing, so satisfying your sense of visual experiences. And if you've ever been to a Nike store, you know that the stores they're really designed to be an experience. You walk in the stores and they're just really pretty amazing. There's some wonderful things that you can do inside the stores. And they provide really and produce really heartwarming commercials. From an enriching standpoint, brands enrich consumers, like Nike enriches consumers, in part because its tagline is very inspiring. It just tells people, look, stop complaining, stop procrastinating, get out there and just do it. And people respond to that. It also inspires us by using some of the world's greatest athletes to endorse its brand, either in commercials or on the field or whatever the case might be. And Nike also has a lot of different communities which people can join, which helps people feel more connected to other athletes. And it makes this whole experience of running or playing basketball or whatever the sport may happen to be more important and part of their identity. So, one of the things that's interesting is that when it comes to different brands, we see some brands that are kind of positioned along one of these benefits. So, for example, we might think about Caterpillar as being purely a functional brand that offers these enabling benefits of very strong equipment that moves the earth when humans can't. We might think about someone like Taylor Swift as someone who offers enticing benefits. She's obviously a beautiful person. She's a wonderful singer. She's a great dancer, full of surprises, etc. And we might think about an organization like Habitat for Humanity as one that embodies enticing benefits, because as people contribute to Habitat for Humanity, either through donations or through actual, building of houses, they're feeling like they're having an impact on the world, and that makes people feel better about themselves. But what we've observed is that even if a brand is positioned along, or people think about it in terms of one of these benefits, all of these brands are valuable because they reach out to consumers in providing some of these other benefits as well. So if we think about Taylor Swift, for example, not only does she sing and dance and is a poet and is beautiful, she has inspiring lyrics. From an enriching standpoint, she gives people hope. She builds self-esteem. And she does so in part by just acting like a normal person, not like a celebrity. She's very relatable, and she connects with her fans. And she also cares enough to devote time, money, and energy towards others. So she's very giving, and those are all enriching benefits. Moreover, she works really hard, and she offers a lot of really helpful tips about how to get along in life and how to be happy. So she really helps people who are struggling, young people who are struggling, by offering enabling benefits, information, and thoughts about how do I solve this problem? What would you do, Taylor? She wears cheap clothes. She wears clothes from H&M, which makes it okay for others to do the same, enabling them to conserve some of their scarce resources. If we think about Habitat for Humanity, yes, it's definitely an inspiring place, and you can make a difference. But in addition, by virtue of building some of these houses with Habitat for Humanity, there are other enticing benefits that Habitat offers, like the ability to connect with other people that you've just never met before but who share your values. You get the opportunity to feel part of something larger than yourself. What's also true is that Habitat for Humanity offers enabling benefits, because not only does it help you feel good about yourself, but it teaches you information about how to avoid lead, how to evaluate air quality. They give you tips on information on how to build healthy homes and safe homes. And they teach people skills. They give them training on energy efficiency, construction, things of that sort. Moreover, from an enticing standpoint, Habitat for Humanity gives people experiential pleasure because these people are actually involved in constructing or building homes for people who really need them. In terms of the benefits that we are talking about in this book, we make it clear that we talk about these three types of benefits, that when we talk about these three types of benefits, we're not just talking about benefits that are inherent in the product or service. In fact, all of the elements of the marketing mix, including service, place, price, and promotion, are tools that can help to create these benefits. Moreover, we make it clear that when it comes to brand admiration, we're talking about consumers' relationships with a brand over time. What this means is that we need to think about how we can offer enabling, enticing, and enriching benefits throughout the consumption cycle. And again, remember, we're talking about the fact that consumers have a relationship with the brand, and that relationship is not a relationship that stops at the point of purchase. It's a relationship that evolves over time through the nature of the purchase, through the usage of that purchase, who the product is used with, through the disposition, and ultimately onto repurchase. Now, I'm going to talk just a little bit about communicating and delivering on the brand's identity. I talked about Caterpillar earlier as a B2B brand, but I haven't really provided any examples of its enabling, enticing, and enriching benefits. So I wanted to do so here. So basically, Caterpillar, if we think about Caterpillar's identity, so Caterpillar basically sells through independent dealers, and those are Caterpillar's customers. They are very careful not to compete with their dealers by going around them. So they really try very hard to make sure that their dealers know that they are that the dealers themselves are part of their own business system. So their brand identity is that these businesses are a partner. They're a partner that dealers want to work with as part of their business system. So how does Caterpillar communicate and deliver on these benefits in a way that not only creates these enabling, enticing, and enriching benefits, but also is consistent with the broader identity that Caterpillar is trying to foster? So we see, for example, that from the standpoint of enabling benefits, Caterpillar has great products and have high resale value, which is very, very helpful to the dealers who are involved in selling them or leasing them. They sell only through their dealers, so their dealers can make a profit, which of course earns some money for the dealers themselves. They also conserve the dealers' resources by providing really efficient after-sales service and support. They also have a dealers advisory group, which basically allows the dealers to bring any problems that they have on the dealer's end to Caterpillar as a way of problem resolution. And they also make things really easy for their customers because in contrast to a lot of other companies that have these really long contracts and these, termination clauses, et cetera, they have a very short contract and only a 90-day termination clause. So because of all of these enabling benefits, these are not only building trust, which is foundational to brand admiration, they're also consistent with this notion that Caterpillar is a partner that dealers want to work with as part of their business system. When we go to enticing benefits, what's really interesting is that the dealers that work with Caterpillar, the independent dealers, they're often family-owned businesses. And a lot of these businesses, they're concerned about succession. What happens when they retire, and who's going to take over their business for them? Caterpillar offers, I think, a really interesting program that is very heartwarming to the dealers and I think very educational to the kids. And what it does is that it has the kids come in. They basically have the kids come to a Caterpillar facility and they bring them through, what Caterpillar does and what their parents do. And they try to get them excited about how Caterpillar is operating in ways that really make a difference in the world. They also have conferences and networking events that allow people to have fun together and meet each other and connect and so on. And finally, from an enriching standpoint, the dealers feel like they're part of a brand community. They are part of a brand community because Caterpillar goes out of its way to make sure that these dealers can meet with other dealers at various conferences and events around the world. Moreover, they kind of give the dealers a sense of status by saying, if at any point in time you have some issue or problem, you can meet directly with the CEO, which makes people feel very, wow, I have status. I can meet with the CEO without any problem. So I think all three of these are consistent with the notion that Caterpillar is a partner that dealers should want to work with as part of their business system, and they're demonstrating that and delivering it through all of the elements of their marketing mix, including through enabling, enticing, and enriching benefits. So I'm going to wrap up just a little bit here, so because I want to have some time for questions. But I have, I just wanted to provide a couple of takeaways and then provide a little bit of an overview of some other things that we discuss in our book, just so that you have an idea of what it involves. So the first takeaway, I hope, is that brand admiration is a key destination point for marketers because it can add value to firms in lots of different ways. And we showed that through the ways in which brands can be a revenue generator and a cost efficiency enhancer, market protector, and so on. We also talked about the fact that the most highly admired brands are somehow connected to the customer and the customer's world, whether that's their work world, their home world, their world of hobbies, whatever the case may be. But somehow these highly admired brands, they are emotional and they add value to consumers. And they do so by building brand trust, love, and respect, which are drivers of long-term relationships. Also, the most highly admired brands add value to customers because they are able to fulfill fundamental human needs, motives, goals, etc. They're able to enable consumers, entice them, and enrich them. And obviously, all three of those are important. Even if a brand is positioned on one of these benefits, the other benefits are important to people as humans, and so all three of them can contribute strongly to the brand's admiration. And finally, enabling, enticing, and enriching benefits can be delivered and communicated using a whole host of marketing actions, not just to the product, but through its price, through the retail, through service, through after-sales service and support, etc., and across all the stages of the purchase cycle. So I think it's important to think very broadly about the tools that one has available for building and enhancing brand admiration. The last thing I wanted to do, and I'm not sure how well you can see this slide, so let me just talk a little bit through it. What I've just talked about is really some of the broad theory and research and findings that we have developed on how do you build an admired brand. And of course, that's obviously very, very important. But most brands, most of you who are already listening, you have an existing brand. And so the issue is basically how do you strengthen your brand admiration? How do you take what consumers feel about your brand and move it up a notch? Even if it doesn't become the most highly admired brand in the marketplace, how can you make it more admired now than it was before? So those are some issues that we talk about in the book. And we basically kind of think about how you can use the concepts that we've talked about to not only build but strengthen brand admiration. And finally, not necessarily finally, we also think about how companies can leverage brand admiration. This is through brand extensions and product extensions. This gets into issues of brand architecture, design, and other issues along those same lines. And I think the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we also consider metrics in our book. So we know that if one is trying to build an admired brand, then you want to measure how well you're doing over various points in time. So we developed a measure of brand equity, which is an economic measure of brand equity. We've also developed a set of diagnostic measures that are brand dashboard measures that help us understand if our brand's not doing so well in terms of brand admiration, why is that the case? And what can we do to enhance our marketing activities in a way that gets us more on track? So in essence, that was those are some, general ideas. Please feel free at any time if you would like to discuss it to contact my colleague, C.W. Park, myself, or my other colleague, Andreas Eisingerijk, who's CW is my colleague at USC. Andreas is my colleague at Imperial University in the UK. So I think we're ready to maybe have some questions.
Debbie, that was great. Thank you so much. Clear and interesting and provocative. As we move into the Q&A, a quick reminder to all of our participants, please send questions directly through the Chat with Presenter function in the left-hand corner of your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can. And Debbie, we have several questions, and my role is to try to kind of coordinate them so they make a little bit of sense. And I think we're going to kind of start back with your framework itself. One of the questions is asking you to elaborate on how brand love is distinct from brand trust and brand respect. And let me give you a little bit more detail on the question. Why wouldn't trust and respect lead to love? And why do you feel that admiration is kind of a superior or kind of a more overarching construct or a superior emotional connection than brand love?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, what we've, and really this kind of depends on how you want to define brand love, and brand love has been defined in a lot of different ways, but commonly brand love is used to describe the degree of passion that one has for a brand. And what we know is just from, habituation, that passion is something that wanes over time. We might, love our dog, but over time, we still love our dog, but our dog becomes less special unless something unusual happens. So love is a really important driver of brand relationships, but it's not enough to keep people in a relationship for a long, long time. And we know that, right? I mean, you fall out of love with someone and then the relationship is over. So we feel that love is really, it's foundational, but love alone is not going to carry you through the day the way brand admiration would. The reason why, the difference between love and trust is that trust basically is almost like it's a degree of dependency. When one engages in a relationship with a brand, you're kind of dependent on it. You're giving something for getting something. And that two-way exchange, that dyadic exchange that fosters brand trust is something that will not only initiate people to an exchange relationship, but when they trust a brand, they know over time that they can count on this brand time and time and time and time again. And trust and love are different. So I can certainly love a brand, but not necessarily trust it's going to work for me all the time. That's happened quite a bit. And I can certainly trust a brand, but not have that same degree of love and passion for it. So we see trust and love as distinct. Now the question of whether trust can lead to love and love can lead to trust, these are when we're talking about relationships, things can operate on various levels. So like with someone like Taylor Swift, for example, you're probably going to start loving her first. And then after you love her, then you're going to be more inclined to want to trust that she consistently provides great entertainment. Brand respect is interesting because brand respect is what we think distinguishes the great brands from the good brands. Because with brand respect, it's almost like with brand trust, you're on an even par with the consumer, and it's an exchange relationship. With brand love, there's also kind of a you and the customer. But with brand respect, customers are putting you in an elevated position, in a status position, because they really feel good about what you do. And I think that this is where the good brands, become great brands. So, for example, when Apple, came out with its phone, not only did it have, amazing interface and new enticing features that no other phones had, it was very, very reliable. It interfaced with other Apple products, which made it very, very trustworthy, et cetera. But people really thought that Steve Jobs and the Apple company were very cool. They were really thinking about the customer and what is it that and so customers ended up respecting Apple because of that. Now, Apple has been an admired brand, and brand admiration is something that has to be cultivated over time. And there are people that worry that, even though it's been an admired brand, maybe it won't be an admired brand forever. That's where the strengthening of brand admiration comes in. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And it really brings me to another question that one of our attendees had that also relates to a question that came up in the MSI priorities. And one of the questions raised by the attendee is, it's all well and good when we're talking about Apple or Taylor Swift or Habitat, but what about mundane brands like my toothpaste or my detergent or my brand of cheese or something like this? Does this admiration really hold for them? And then let me give you a second piece of this that kind of relates to that in the priorities. There's a big question that I keep hearing particularly in consumer packaged goods, but also in healthcare and financial services. How do big brands fight against being too big in consumers' minds? How can they survive and grow in an age where, known brands are often less enticing, or enticing, I think, is the word that actually came up, than unknown brands? And I'll give you one example that has come up that I find really intriguing. I don't know if you're familiar with the company, The Honest Company.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so you think about a company like Honest.com, and then you think about companies that have been in that consumer packaged goods space and are highly trusted, right? They're strong on enabling, and they have a long tradition of brand love, and yet all of a sudden we've got these kind of upstarts. Tom's toothpaste, I think, would be another example. So do you see any distinctions across categories or across existing brands and startups, or these kind of mundane and big and small? So that's a big question.
That's a great question. It's really an excellent question. And I think what we have to think about is that, first of all, brand admiration exists on a continuum. So it's not as though you're admired or not admired. You're either more admired or less admired than other brands, particularly other brands in your category. So the relevant frame of reference should be, how admired are you relative to other brands in your same product category, right?
Right.
So I think even if you think about something, even just take a phone. The iPhone is an example. It's a phone. It's a functional product. But if you think about how Apple was able to include these enticing and enriching benefits, it stood out as being far more than a phone. Or a toothpaste that might have great enabling benefits by providing, all sorts of wonderful dental hygiene and cavity protection and protection against gingivitis and all of those things which are enabling. But is it also pleasant to smell? Does it leave your mouth with a tingling feeling? Does it make your teeth as white as they can possibly be? Does this company do anything that contributes to the broader society? For example, do they donate toothpaste to homeless shelters? You know, do they donate toothpaste to other entities, places around the world where dental hygiene is really a problem? So when you really think about it, a lot of companies have room to grow from the standpoint of brand admiration if they think more broadly about what the benefits are that they can offer. Now, you asked a second question, Kay, and that was about, remind me what your second question was. It was about
you kind of addressed it somewhat. You've got these big brands, and then you've kind of got all these startup ones, and it's a strange sense that tiny brands sometimes seem to get more love and respect and trust than these big brands that should get more trust.
And it's really interesting because there's actually some research on that. What some of those upstart brands, they kind of position themselves as, rightly so, an underdog brand. And there's been some research that shows that we as people, we gravitate to the underdog in part because we identify with ourselves as an underdog, and we want to champion that underdog. So it's almost like, you've got this little tiny startup that has like very little money, and it's coming up against this big, David and Goliath kind of archetypal story, and so I think it's kind of the respect that here we have these underdog brands that are really working hard and trying to come up against the big guys.
Yeah, and so how does the big guy successfully respond? It feels like your brand admiration framework almost gives an opportunity, like a way of thinking about how a trusted large brand could successfully respond to that.
Yes, exactly. I mean, so one way of responding is to to also endorse that brand, to give it credit in PR, other kinds of activities. You don't want to alienate that brand because if consumers are, if the consumers are identifying with this other brand, you want to acknowledge, the good that they are doing. At the same time, you obviously want to. These upstart brands cannot be and don't have obviously the resources that the large brands have, and so the larger brands can also build their admiration in a way that's distinct from these other brands by not competing with them head on head.
Okay, and so finding different opportunities to do things that they can't do because of their size.
Yes.
Well, let me one comment that related to the brand respect that I think fits well into this conversation comes from one of our attendees who says, would it be fair to say that brand respect comes from standing for something that transcends the company's narrow economic interest and the consumer's own narrow ego needs?
That's a very eloquent way of stating what that involves. I'd say absolutely. So, when we respect brands that speak to our higher order values, things that we think are important, things that we should do, things that make us feel like we are not alone. We are part of something bigger and greater. So yes, absolutely. It's those brands that go beyond we're making a profit to we are helping to make the world a better place, or we are helping you to become a better person.
Yeah, that makes sense. Or even we are creating some enticing benefits for you. I mean, it can go in that one too. And related to that, we had a question about the role of brand purpose. Mm-hmm. And so the question is a strong brand purpose a driver of brand admiration apart from the three benefits? Or would you say that brand purpose is kind of embedded or imbued in one of the three pillars?
Yeah, no, I think that brand purpose is, and we talk about this in the book, actually. We talk about the brand's mission and that kind of thing. The idea is that ideally you have the brand purpose being an overarching concept along which these enabling, enticing, and enriching benefits can be developed, displayed, communicated, delivered, etc. So you start with the purpose, and through that purpose, you say, how can I make this purpose come to life through these enabling, enticing, and enriching benefits? So that's the way we're thinking about it.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of discussion in MSI companies, and some of my own research looks at kind of designing the customer experience, and I was really intrigued by the way you were thinking about how these benefits could influence the entire customer journey. And we had a question. We had a question from one of our attendees that wanted to know what your thoughts are of, does the impact of the benefits vary by phase in the purchase cycle? And is there any research on that?
There's no research on that. It's a really interesting question. My suspicion would be that it really depends on the nature of the product category. So if it's more of a functional product, then the issue is providing these enabling benefits and fostering trust. That's what you have to do first. That's kind of essential. If it's more of an experiential product, then you've got to make sure you stand out on that dimension, and then kind of build in these others. So that's the way I think we would think about it. Obviously, you can't be everything to everyone all at once. So this is really it's part of not only a customer journey, it's part of a brand journey. So I think that's the way we would think about it. There's kind of a core product or service or whatever that's either functional, symbolic, or experiential, and you have to be that. But beyond that, how can you stretch out in other ways through these other benefits?
Yeah, that's really cool. As you were presenting, I was thinking back to some of my own work on customer lifetime value and customer equity, and I know that you kind of link to brand equity in your book, but I see kind of a parallel way of thinking to the overall value of the customer. When you think about your enabling benefits they're not exact, but they're kind of, in their functional nature, they're kind of related to what's often been called value. And your enriching benefits, although again distinct, are kind of related to the relationship equity piece. That and then the one that I think is really distinct is this enticing benefits, which in my work with Roland and Valerie, we kind of lumped all in brand. And so I love kind of some of the new connections that I see, because I really think you have taken such a deep dive in understanding what's going on from the consumer side, whereas a lot of the customer equity work was from more the firm side. But I guess my question is, do you see that you could take these drivers and also link them to the value of the customer, or a customer lifetime value approach?
Yes, absolutely. There's no question. I think that, to the extent that we have, and I think if we go back to, I'm just going to go back to one of the slides I had earlier. Let's see, where is it? If we go back to this slide.
One more.
Yeah,
there you go.
One more.
Yeah.
When we get to this slide, I mean, these loyalty and advocacy behaviors are the very behaviors that contribute to the lifetime value of a customer.
Right,
obviously, what you want to do is drive, make, not only give that sale, but make that customer loyal and encourage that customer to act as a brand champion, so that other people will feel their enthusiasm for the brand as well. Because we know, of course, that word of mouth is so much more powerful than marketing messages in convincing other people to try a product. So these brand advocacy behaviors are really, really important.
This is wonderful. We probably have about 10 more questions, but we're not going to have time for them. Quick question though, because I know several people asked about this, Debbie. In the book, do you have a long list, do you have a good list of references that kind of links a lot of this back to the scholarly work in this area?
We do. We do. And we've tried to tried to make this a non-academic book, so we don't have a citation that goes along with every every sentence, but we do have quite a few citations in there, not only our work, obviously, but the work of a lot of colleagues in marketing and psychology that I think supports our framework.
Oh, that's wonderful, because I think that that some of our listeners today, you know, are what we love about them being a part of MSI. They want to read the book, and then they actually want to go back and read the JCRs as well.
I know, that's awesome.
It's so exciting. So I want to thank you so much. I know.
Thank you.
Can you put Debbie's last slide up so that we can put her email on? If we didn't get to your questions, or if there are additional things that you'd like to discuss, we invite you to reach out to Debbie directly at mckinnis@usc.edu. Our next webinar will be Understanding, Measuring, and Managing Shoppability on November 16th at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and will feature Ray Burke of Indiana University. Many thanks to the members of the MSI audience for participating in our member-to-member webinar series, and Debbie, thanks to you as well.
Thank you